let's get the new Gen 3 step sliders installed on the Jeep. Let's start by pulling the wiring harness up to the battery. Route it here on top of the frame rail, up the firewall. At the battery, connect the red to positive. The black is going to ground here on the fender. Pull the fuse out and set it aside for now. It's important to note that the new Gen 3 wiring harness is completely new and will be routed along the top side of the passenger frame rail. You're going to attach it to the existing factory wiring harness. Next, let's remove the factory interior trim along the rocker panel. You can now peel back the carpet and look for this hard plastic plug that Jeep has cemented to the floor. Using a screwdriver or punch, use a hammer to remove this plug. Next, run the door sensor harness up through the hole and install the supplied grommet. Pull the harness from the passenger side to the driver's side, running it over the crossmember, and secure it with zip ties. Remove the driver's side interior rocker trim, pop the floor plug, run the sensor and master switch cutoff wires along existing harness. Leave the motor connector and circuit board connector outside of the Jeep. Install the grommet on the passenger side harness and pop it back into the floor pan. Next, let's get the door sensors installed. We're going to start on the back door. We need to remove this trim panel, pop it off. After we clean the paint area underneath the latch, the sensor will install right here. Tuck the wiring in under the carpet and we're ready to reinstall the trim. Now let's move to the front door. Here's a quick test fit. Then we'll clean the area and install the sensor. Align your sensor with the door latch. And here it is installed. With the front and rear door sensors installed, we can now tuck the carpeting back in and reinstall all the plastic rocker trim. It just snaps right back into place. Now it's time to get the door magnets installed. Do a test fit before you double stick them down to make sure that they are properly aligned with the sensors. Now that we've verified that the sensors and the magnets are aligned, it's time to take the alcohol pad, clean the paint, peel off the backing, and double stick the magnets to the doors. Now it's time to get the master cutoff switch installed. Use a T25 Torx bit to remove the OBD port bracket. This screw is going to be reused again to install the new master cutoff switch bracket. It sits right on top of the OBD port bracket. Once we have the bracket installed, feed the wiring harness through the bracket and install the wires onto the master cutoff switch. Now that we have the switch wired up, install the switch into the bracket. It should look like this when it's installed. Next, let's remove the two 10mm pinch seam bolts. Set them aside as we will reinstall them later. Now it's time to loosen the body bolts. You're going to have 3 of these on each side. If they feel like they're binding on you, run them back in a quarter turn and then start them out again. You need to back them out approximately 1/4 inch. Install each bracket between the bolt head and the washer. Leave them loose for now. Now here's the 3 brackets laid out. The tall one goes in the front, the long one in the rear. In preparation for the bump strap install, this angle section below your doors needs to be thoroughly clean. Before installing the bump strap to your Jeep, do an alignment check. We found that 1 3/4 inches from the bottom of the door sill to the top of the bump strap is a good location. Also, look for this cutout. It will align with the body seam. Once you've cleaned the paint with the alcohol pad, it's time to install the bump strap. Take your time with this step. Once that tape adheres to the Jeep, it's designed not to come off. Before installing the step slider on your Jeep, be sure and pull out the wiring harness. It will drop down to the last cutout. This will make it easier to find and plug in. When you have the bolts on the step slider inserted into the pinch seam holes, the step sliders will stay on the Jeep by themselves. Secure the step slider to the pinch seam using the 1/4 and 5/16 nylock nut washer sets. Now plug the motor wiring harness into the motor itself. It should look like this. Now plug the motor circuit into the main harness. The additional harness you see here will be used for the optional light set. Now tighten the pinch seam nuts. 5/16 torque to 18 pounds, 1/4 inch nuts torque to 8 foot-pounds. These 5/16 bracket bolts will be torqued to 18 foot-pounds. If you're installing the optional skid system, they mount in the very same place. Now we're going to reinstall the 2 10mm panel pinch bolts. Torque these to 8 foot-pounds. Next, tighten the body bolts. Torque these to 80 foot-pounds. Now let's reinstall the fuse. And when you do this, the sliders will move up and down rapidly. This is normal. If you're not installing the armor system, use these plastic plugs to cover the holes in the step slider. The armor system will mate right onto the step slider. On the outside edge, they're held on with these aluminum rivets, and underneath, they bolt right to the mounting brackets. Feed the light kit through the interior gussets. It will be held in place via the double-sided tape on the back of the lights. Secure the lights to the top inside of the step slider and plug into the remaining harness. Now let's go through and make sure we have the harnesses zip tied up nice and tight. That's it, we're done. Congratulations, it's time for you to enjoy your brand new step sliders.